Hi everybody, I'm David. I'm an addict. I'm from the Elk City group, about 100 and some miles from here, and a bunch of us surprised Casey, actually. She didn't know we was coming. Because she didn't tell none of us, but word got out. Word got out. But I met Casey about, 18, 20 years ago, whatever. And I've been clean that whole time, so she's never got to see me use. Thank God. Most of my people in my group never got to see me use, thank God again. But I watched Casey go up through the ups and downs, the ins and outs and all that, and proud to call her a friend. We became real good friends. We can go long periods of times without talking to each other. Don't matter if it's months even, and then when we get back in, it's just like it was yesterday. You know, so it's that kind of a friendship. We don't have to speak every day or even every week, but I'd do anything for Casey and she'd do the same for me. And that's what kind of friendships are made in these places in recovery. And that's a lot different than out there, because we didn't do that kind of shit. So I'm proud to call Casey my friend, and I won't waste no more of your time. Just come and listen to her story.
I'm Casey, I'm an addict. Hi, Casey. Anyways, that's my recovery hero right there. He was able to do something I couldn't do, which was not use no matter what. So, I've got a 10-page book here to read to you. I hope that's okay. Got 30 minutes to explain 40 years. So I just want to thank the Breakfast Club for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share recovery with you guys and show that it does exist. I also, I was told that every time you challenge a fear, you get closer to overcoming it. And it's an extreme fear by even talking in meetings. So bear with me, okay? Thank you for this opportunity and challenging this fear. I started using at a really young age, 12 years old. I was raised by a mother with mental illness and also had some childhood trauma like most of us have and gone through. And so I was pissed about it. I was very angry. I knew two feelings, depression and aggression. Those were the only two feelings I know, and they came out sideways. They caused me to get committed to mental health facilities. And from the age 12 years old all the way up to 15, I had already been in either 4 or 5 mental health institutions because of my behaviors. The last one, at 15 years old, I ended up overdosing on alcohol. And that's when they decided, you know what, you might not be crazy. I think you have a substance abuse problem. I'm like, okay. Anyways, they sent me to a substance abuse adolescent treatment center. It was half mental health, half treatment, and that's where I got introduced to the 12 steps of the program. When I was in there, I really didn't believe that I had a problem with drugs, even though I had overdosed. I believed that, you know what, if I want to quit, I can quit. I don't want to quit, okay? Everyone else wants me to quit. If I want to, I can. So I went through that treatment center, and it's kind of crazy because I'm looking back, I was thinking about when I wrote my story about being in that treatment facility. And as I was there, I had friends there, and I would tell them, hey, because we would get to go outside and go on the playground, merry-go-round, walkway. When you guys leave, is there any way you can get a bottle and hide it under that merry-go-round so that, when I get my break outside, I could get it? And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And so every day I went out hoping that the person who had graduated the program would leave me a present. Nobody ever did. And I even said, hey, we went to outside meetings. Bring me something to the outside meeting. You'll get to me there. So every time I went to the outside meeting, do you think I was hearing what people were saying? I was looking for that person who might have something for me, and they never showed up. So after that, I got out of treatment. I was 15. I met my soon-to-be husband, moved out with my family. My mom didn't care. She was tired of my shit. I pretty much wore her out. So she was just like, do whatever. I don't care. And this boyfriend of mine, it was free beer, free weed, a party every night of the week. And so that's what I did. I ended up getting pregnant with my first son, Jeremy, and that slowed me down a little bit. I backed off the drugs a little bit during that pregnancy. And when after I had him, things got really ugly, and I started using harder and using faster, and it took me down really, really quick. My family stepped in and took my son from me, and that was really hard. My husband left me. He wanted our kid, and he knew if he stayed with me, he would not get to see our kid. This was the first time I wanted to quit, and I couldn't quit. I wanted to quit using, and I could not stop. I could not stop to get my child back. The only thing I knew how to do was use to cope with my feelings of shame and guilt. And so I went out and just used and used and used, and this is when I hit my bottom. I lived in that apartment with no electricity, no water. I was hungry. I lived at the bar. The way I would get my food was wait until the end of the night, and then I would say, let's have breakfast. It's 2 a.m. I knew that some man there would take me out to breakfast and feed me, and that's how I got to eat. I probably could go on and on about some of the war stories to tell you what, led me to recovery, but I'll just skip it. I don't have a whole lot of time. I finally broke in. I bounced from relationship to relationship, drug dealer, abusive relationship, and I think that really took a toll on me too. And I broke free from one of them and ended up getting in a motel room. Stayed in that motel room for a couple days and really found my higher power in that motel room and started to speak to him. He said, call your mother. I called my mom. I said, man, Mom, I'm ready to get clean. I'm tired of this. I'm ready for treatment. I'm sick of living this way. She said she wouldn't come get me. She said, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm sorry, I can't. And I cried and I cried, and I really felt like my higher power had told me to call her, so I was really angry. And the next day she knocked on that motel room and she picked me up. So I went to treatment. I called, went to treatment. Got me a place in Norman, NADTC. I don't know if we're allowed to say treatment centers, but I don't know if y'all know that was a great treatment center. And I found I was pregnant. That was a surprise. And then I found out there was 2 babies in there. That was a double surprise. So here I was, just barely clean and pregnant with twins, and still thinking about my baby that I lost, So I got out, and that's where I met David. I started going to meetings every day. I got involved in service after I got out of treatment, and I did the deal. Let me see here. I brought this in case I got held up. Let's see. After a few years of recovery, something happened. I got a desire to go to college. I was like, man, I want to be somebody, okay? I want to provide for my family. I think I can do this, I'm clean, I have God in my life, and so I signed up for school, got enrolled. Anyways, that was hard. I ended up having to take basic level courses, which is paying for 0 level courses because they were absolutely no credit hours, because I took the test and I was not very smart, and they said, we can't put you in these classes. So I had to take all these baby classes. My basic math class, it wasn't even algebra, class I was flunking. And my teacher came up to me and he said, you're not going to pass this class. I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to pass this class? It's basic math. He said, yeah, I'm sorry, you're not, the rate you're going, you're not going to pass. And I was like, what can I do? He was like, I don't know, and I was like, well, do you have another class that you teach? He said, yeah. I said, can I sit in it? He said, okay, sure, why not? I said, is there another math teacher here? Yeah, there's so-and-so, Mrs. Coker was her name. Do you think she'll let me sit in that class? I said, I don't know. So I went and asked her, I said, can I sit in your class? She was like, well, don't interrupt, don't mess with any of the other students. She had 2 classes. So I sit in 4 basic math classes to pass this basic math class. Talk about determination. I wanted to be somebody, and NA gave me that. So I ended up going into intermediate algebra, and then I went to college algebra, and I made an A in college algebra. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys. It's something to be proud of. So anyways, I ended up getting into the nursing program and getting a degree and became a registered nurse. So that was huge for a junkie on the streets, okay? After several years, I kind of got busy living life, being a normal person. I had my husband, I had my career, I had my home, and stopped going to meetings, stopped calling my sponsor. The basic text has a statement here, and I went ahead and read it. It said, "Our ego tells us we can do it on our own. Things are better. I don't need the program." One day led to 2 days, which led to 3 days, a month, a year. And at 8 years, life happened to me, and I didn't have the strength to get through it. Started having problems in my marriage, and started getting resentments, started becoming ungrateful, and I used after 8 years of being clean. I went back out. It was one drink, really. It was one drink. I was just going to drink one drink. Alcohol was different. See, I hadn't been in the meetings, so I wasn't able to hear the readings that said alcohol is a drug, okay? I wasn't hearing that. So I believed the lie. It caught me. I left my family. I left my kids. I went back in those motel rooms and started using drugs. Went through all my resources and all my money, and I stayed out a year. When I lost all my resources and money and sanity, a lot of sanity, I reached out for help and knew I had to go to treatment, and I ended up going to treatment. I did attempt to go to meetings, and I would show up in meetings, but it didn't work at the time. I knew I needed to be locked up. So I went to a 90-day treatment center. When I got done with the 90-day treatment center, they said, "You're not ready to go home. We can't send you home. We're going to send you to Austin, Texas to a recovery house. You need more support. There's no way you're going to be able to stay clean in your condition." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it. I want to stay clean." I wanted to do it. I knew what the program said, 100%. You've got to do what's suggested. And I left and went to a recovery house in Austin, still thinking about my babies in hopes that I would get reunited with them. When I was up there, we had to pay weekly rent. And guess what? Nobody would hire me. Nobody wanted to give me a job. I went everywhere. It was very frustrating. I even went to this veterinarian place where they bathe the dogs. They're like, "No, you're not." I mean, they did not trust me with their dogs. And I had a breakdown. I'm like, I can't even wash a dog for money, So I went around, and begged people in the neighborhood. I took our little mower from the sober house, and I went around and said, "I can't pay my rent." I went up and knocked on people's door. "I can't pay my rent. I will mow your lawn for donations. I don't care what you pay. Anything you want, I'll do it." And that's how I paid my rent, going around mowing lawns to pay the rent. Somebody finally told me they said, "Hey, there's this place called Goodwill. They hire people with felonies. They hire people with disabilities." I say, "They do? They have to hire me then. I mean, they have to. That's their purpose. They've got to." So I went over there. And I was telling my sister, and she was like, "Oh God, Casey, if they don't hire you, please call me, because I'm worried about you." Well, they hired me, and I've never been so grateful in my entire life to be having that job where I was hanging up clothes every day and making that money, and it felt good. And I didn't know if I would ever be a nurse again in my condition and the way I thought. I didn't know if that was going to happen. So I spent 6 months to 8 months doing that, and decided to come back to Oklahoma, and I went ahead and went to the nursing board and entered into the monitoring program to try to get my license back, and they accepted me. And I had to do monthly committee meetings, and they required me, to have a sponsor, to go to meetings, to do all that stuff I already knew how to do, and I was doing it in Texas anyway. I spent a year in that monitoring program before they looked at me and said, "Okay, you can go back to work as a nurse. We think you're all right." And I never thought that was going to happen, and it did. And I started working as a nurse again. I started doing NA in recovery. 99.9% is what I gave. There was 1% I was still holding on to that I didn't want to surrender. And that was a toxic relationship with a man who was still using. And all over that time, I was clean 5 years. I could not give up that relationship, and it finally took me down, and I ended up getting high. So I wish this was a perfect story about recovery, but it's not. I stayed out 6 weeks on that run. That talks about how the disease progresses. The first time I relapsed, I was out for a year. This time in 6 weeks, I was dying. I could not get high, and I could not stop trying to get high. I was believing my delusions. I was buying into the hallucinations. I was sick. I was very sick, and I was trying to kill myself in that motel room. And I reached out. You know my recovery hero over there? Guess what? He took me to treatment. And it was a nightmare for him, let me tell you. He was like, I really needed to kind of take my wife. And I was like, no, if you take her, I'm not going to go. And I pulsed my hands like that because I didn't want anybody to see. I mean, these people that I had been in recovery with for years, and I was embarrassed and humiliated for anyone to see me in this condition. And I didn't want her to see me in this condition. The only one that I felt was okay to see me in this condition was David, and that's because I had been in recovery with him so many years. And so he said, okay, I'm going to take you. And he came and he took me to treatment. I forgot to tell you guys, when I was in treatment, they gave me one of those psych tests. Has anybody ever had one of those? How many people took that test? Oh my gosh, like 4-hour test. My counselor came out and she told me, listen, I have, something that's really concerning. And I said, well, you do? What is that? She said, well, this test said, number one, you don't learn from your mistakes. Obviously, right? And number two, your IQ is really, really low. Oh my God. I was just like, what? She said, yeah, for you to have a career and be a nurse, that's pretty concerning. And I was like, I'll never be a nurse again. Oh my gosh, I have really ruined myself. And so I was really, really scared about that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've ruined myself. She said, that's what the drugs have done you. I know you had to have some sort of intelligence to get that degree, and you've really fried your brain. So, anyways, I got out, and guess what? I got back in that monitoring program, and instead of a 3-year program, I had to do 5 years. So they monitored me for 5 years, and I ended up getting a job back again as a nurse. I washed dishes. Until then, okay? And I loved my dishwashing job. I did. And that's when I met my husband, Jeff, over there, was when I was washing dishes. And guess what? He loved me washing dishes, okay? And it's funny because when we started dating, he was like, how much clean time do you have? I can't tell him the truth, right? He won't go out with me. So I said, well, like 5 months. He's like, 5 months? I said, yeah, but I've had all this time. I really only had like 2 months when I met him, okay? So anyways, I made amends to him and told him 4 years later. After we got married, okay? I was going to tell him the truth. Listen, I was going to tell him the truth in the beginning, but like he started talking to me and he was like, anything that's based in dishonesty will crumble. And I was like, I can never tell him the truth. I'm taking it to my grave. So, but I have a little bit here. I don't know what time it is, but I really want to share because it's about recovery and it's about what Narcotics Anonymous has done for me, and it's showed me a new way to live, okay? And so I want to share some of these things that the step work has taught me in the program. Narcotics Anonymous has helped me with my relationship with God. That step working guide, I'd been in the program before and I'd worked other programs before, and I kind of skipped over step 2 because I always believed in God, right? So I don't have a problem with that. Well, I realized I did when I worked that workbook. And there's a question in there that says, what do you have trouble believing? What are your barriers? And I finally wrote it down. Okay, well, I have a hard time believing that my higher power is going to burn me. And I have a hard time believing that my higher power will burn somebody else. And so my sponsor was like, okay. So I had to get rid of that and I had to let that go. I had to not focus on that. And so I just erased that. Because NA says that your higher power can be anything as long as he's loving and caring and greater than you. And so I decided my higher power is loving and caring. It's not going to burn me. Another issue is when I prayed for things, I didn't get them. Has anyone else had problems with that? And that made me mad. I'm like, well, maybe he doesn't exist. Well, so-and-so's getting this. So-and-so's getting that. Maybe he loves them more than he loves me. My sponsor taught me, you know what? I started praying for the knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. And that got better. NA's taught me that I have a choice. I have a choice not to use. okay? It doesn't just accidentally happen. It doesn't happen in my life, and in my head, it played out like, oh my gosh, it just happened. What happened? How did I get here? And NA's taught me that I have a choice not to use. If I choose to use, guess what? I lose that power of choice. I lose that freedom. A little bit more. What time is it? I can't see the clock. Am I? Okay. Okay, I like this meeting. Not only do I have a choice not to use, I have a choice to practice spiritual principles in place of character defects. And that's what steps 6 and 7 has taught me to do. I can't see over here. I'm going to have to do this. I choose forgiveness over retaliation. You know, because anytime someone harmed me, guess what? I thought I had to one-up them, right? I had to show them I had to harm them back. I thought I needed to pay them back. I looked at my behavior and my pattern at this, and I realized that, you know what, I was only harming myself. So that guy cheated on me. I'll show him. I'm going to cheat on him. Guess what happened? I lost my clean time. I lost my home. I lost my career. I lost my kids. The only thing I gained from that was an STD. That's the truth. That's the truth. I learned my lesson. Sorry, babe. No. Anyways, I found a new way to live. I can replace jealousy with being happy for others. During my relapse, I signed my guardianship over to my oldest son to another set of parents. And they took guardianship over him, and they started to raise him, and they started to treat him like he was theirs. I started getting on Facebook one Christmas, and I saw them. I saw them on there as a family. And they were so cute. They had this pretty background, and they all had matching shirts. And I was like, look at them. They're rich. They have matching clothes. They look so cute. And and I was like, what's happening? You know, I'm jealous. This is jealousy. What does the program tell me to do? And I pulled up my notes. Jealousy. Anyways, it says be happy for others and gratitude. And I just started praying, you know what, God, I'm thankful for you. I'm grateful that you put these people in my son's life to take care of him when I wasn't able to. Thank you for everything that you've given him. You've been able to do for him what I could not do for him. You know, and before that I was mad. I had money for all my kids, $300 that Christmas. And I was so jealous and so angry, I almost didn't give my son $300 because I was like, he has it made. He has money. My other kids don't. You know what? If I would have done that, that jealousy would have sabotaged that relationship. And I didn't have to sabotage that relationship because of the program. I found a new way to live. He got his money. Instead of being defiant, prideful, and in self-will, I practice the principles of humility, acceptance, and surrender. I respect authority in my life. I started doing what people told me to do. You guys, I told y'all about that monitoring program, that nursing program. It was hard. And maybe some of you are in the drug court program. I don't know, so you may have to be dealing with this. But they told me where to do it, how to do it, what to do, what meetings I could go to, what job I could have. I finally just surrendered. You know what? I could not manage my own life. And if I was managing my life correctly, these people would not be in my life managing it for me. Okay? So when I accepted that attitude, my misery started to melt away. I got some serenity. I found a new way to live. And I thought steps 8 and 9 was about forgiveness. I thought steps 8 and 9 was about people forgiving me. You know, we go and make amends, and so they're supposed to forgive us, right? I was happy about that. I thought the step was going to be about them forgiving me, but it wasn't. It was about me forgiving, and it was about freedom. My ex-husband, I had to put him on the list, you know, the 8th step. We have to write everybody down, because that's what NA said. We have to write them down no matter what. And I told my sponsor, well, he's done a lot to me. Can it be even, you know, or like, do I really have to put him on there? She said, yes. I've got pages and pages and pages of stuff this man's done to me. I didn't want to put him on the list, but I did. I focused on the harm that I did to him, and I wrote all that out, and I looked at it. And I didn't know how I was going to make amends to this man because he would not talk to me. He didn't have anything to do with me. So I talked to my sponsor and I said, we're going to make, what about an indirect amends? She said, that's fine. And so I came up with this way to make amends to him for him. And that was, I was not going to talk bad about him to anybody. Not to my kids, not to my family. And I love talking shit about this man. I'd get high on talking shit, okay? I would. And I made the decision not to talk. And guess what happened? I got freed up. So I got freedom from bitterness, from anger, from resentment. I got freed up. I found a new way to live. Another person I had on my list was that mother I talked about earlier who had mental illness. It caused her a lot of harm and a lot of worry when I was young. I was running away, drinking, using, stealing money out of her purse. I overdosed. I mean, could you imagine your kid overdosing? And so I put her on the list, and it was strange because I said I'm really still kind of resentful at my mom. And my sponsor told me, you're not resentful at your mom. You're angry at the disease. You're angry at the illness. So that helped me. What happened was we decided that I would pray about my amends because I didn't know how I was going to make amends to her. I ended up coming home, and within that week, I got a card in the mail. And it said, I'm really, really sorry that I wasn't there for you when you were growing up. Jeff was with me when I opened that card, and we both started crying. I couldn't believe that here, right at this moment, that I was working on my amends to my mother. And this is a lady that can't even find the post office, okay? Here, a card. I opened it. She's never given me a card before. And it said, I'm sorry I was never there for you when you were growing up. How cool is that? The right time at the right place is amazing. Last part of my amends, I may be talking about amends too much, is the financial amends. And I was $45,000 in debt. That's what I owed people. So I started paying one debt at a time. And this did not feel good at all. I was pissed. The whole time I was writing a check, I was pissed that I was having to do it. But I was doing it because that's what I was told to do. I have to do it. Even if it doesn't feel good, we do what we're supposed to do. So I ended up, let's see. Oh yeah, my last debt. That's right. This is exciting. My last debt. Okay, second to last debt. One of the debts on my debt list was from a friend that owed me $2,700. I had co-signed for a loan. And I was pissed about this debt. And I had told Jeff, I'm not going to pay it. I technically do not owe this. Like, they got the money. He said, babe, you took responsibility when you signed that paper. You're going to have to let it go. They're never going to pay you back. Just pay it. So I called and I got it settled for $1,400 and decided to pay it. So then my last debt, my daughter went with me all the way to Elk City to pay at the hospital. And she held my hand. And it was for $1,300. And I was like, I don't want to give this money, but let's do it. I'd rather keep it. She said, come on, Mama. So she held my hands. We walked into the hospital and we paid that debt. And we came out screaming, we're debt free. We did a video and everything. And so she got to be a part of that. Well, since I was in town, I called that friend that owed me money. and talked to her and said, hey, I was just going to let you know that I settled. Can you believe this? I settled that debt for $1,400. She said, really? She said, hey, guess what? I'm getting my life together and I'm trying to make things right. I want to pay you that $1,400 back. I said, you do? She said, yeah. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, come on. I'm going to nursing school. I'm clean. Get over here. And she gave me all these $100 bills. And I was like, what was really cool, this is the delayed gratification. Remember, it didn't feel good paying those debts back? My daughter was right there for the whole thing. She said, Mom, I think God wanted you to pay your debt first before you got paid back. I was like, I think you're right, honey. And I looked at it and I was resentful towards her for doing exactly what I had been doing. I didn't pay people I owed. I didn't pay my bills. And here I was holding on to that resentment. Anyways, God worked it out. And I called Jeff. He didn't believe it. No way. She did not. He thought I was lying to him. I was like, I got the money right here. Okay, wrapping it up, guys. Sorry. You've got to pee. Give me about 3 more minutes. I know I touched on several of the steps, 2 and 3, 6 and 7, 8 and 9. And so I just wanted to touch base on my favorite question on step 10. Do I consciously remember that I have a choice? That's helped me stay clean. I ask these questions too. Do I want to use today? If I don't, great. If I do, I get to a meeting. I call another addict. I call my sponsor. And that's my other questions. Did I talk to my sponsor? Did I talk to another addict? Do I owe an amends? Page 85 says we must use what we learn or we will lose it, no matter how long we have clean. And that's my message to the old timer, because I have experience in losing my clean time. Step 12 is carrying the message. I do sponsor women. I got 2 sponsees here tonight I'm excited about. I was really blessed this year when my sponsee asked me to be in the delivery room with her when she had her baby. And I even got to cut the cord. And that was really special. And it's my privilege and purpose to help any addict who reaches out. That's what step 12 says. The second part of step 12 is we practice these principles in all our affairs, not just with each other and not just in these rooms, in all of our affairs. We need to take a little bit of NA out into the world, guys. This world needs the unity we have been so blessed to experience in here. So I just want y'all to take it out of here, okay? To the newcomer, reaching out is the beginning of the struggle that sets us free. Get a sponsor. Go up and ask somebody to be your sponsor. You know, that's the first step. The first step is always the hardest and it always feels the most awkward. But if you want God to move, you got to take the first move. Get a higher power. NA says the only requirement is a loving and caring, and that your higher power is loving, caring, and greater than you. If you don't have one, I will gladly loan you mine until you can find your own. I'm grateful for that this is a spiritual program and not a religious program, and I'm grateful for our traditions. But I'd like to encourage you to talk to addicts outside this room and ask them questions about their higher power. Thanks.